The actors, please. None of the actors receives any pay. A donation for the actors, please. None. A donation for the actors, please. None of the actors receives any pay. Oh, thank you very much, sir. Thank you. A donation for the actors. Mr. Silo. A donation for the actors.
Actors? No true actor would submit to engage in such trash.
But you are going to review my show.
Absolutely not. You heard me in there. If I were to review your so-called show, even badly, I fear some of my readers might come just out of curiosity. And I do not want to be responsible for keeping your theater open one more day.
Then we shall see.
Really?
Hey, don't listen to him. I hate critics, and he's at the top of the list.
Welcome to another episode of the 31 Nights of Halloween Horror! You are not advertiser friendly! Yes, 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 episode number 17! Yes, coming off of last night's highly debauched, highly depraved, highly sexualized, highly nude, highly everything, fun, blood-sucking freaks. I thought, you know what, I've got to turn it down a little bit. I am getting a little too far into the perverse land. I mean, not that it's bad to go far into perverse land, but I thought, no, let's bring it back a little bit. Besides, this gives me an opportunity to watch and review a movie that I was very interested the first time I've heard about it, because it is a unique subject matter for a horror movie, at least for me. I haven't really noticed many that deal with this subject, and that subject is haunted houses. Not actual haunted houses, but the fake ones that are put on by people during the Halloween season to scare people. People will pay good money to be frightened. So various haunts and haunted houses and stuff like that. And the movie I'm reviewing is The Houses October Built. Yes, yes, yes. So what is this movie about? Well, it is about a group of friends who rent an RV and decide to go down Texas way to find the ultimate in extreme haunts. And while they're there, they come across this sort of mythological haunt called the Blue Skeleton, one that moves around and you need to have secret passcodes and find the location for, and it would be the most crazy and insane haunt of their existence. So anyways, while they're at one of the regular haunts, one of the big guys, the funny guy, the bearded guy, why you gotta pick on us bearded guys? Anyways, decides to climb on top of the building and then make a fool of himself. I don't know where he got the megaphone, honestly, but he started making a fool of himself. That pissed off the employees of this haunt, and they kind of confront him, and he kind of, they back off, and then all of a sudden, they are being followed and tormented on their journey through the other haunts. And yeah, so the thing is about this movie is that it is a found footage movie. It is kind of the mockumentary style, because the filmmakers this movie, they went to real haunted houses and they interviewed people. They did it as if it was a documentary, but they were really making a horror movie. But it has a lot of documentary footage in it, a lot of interviews with actual haunt actors and actual haunt owners and news stories and stuff like that to kind of give it that authentic feel. And that's really the kind of adds to the authenticity and the realism of this, which is sometimes you get lacking from the found footage. Found footage for me a lot of times is often stale and boring and really doesn't have anything to really get your mind going, and does it have a way to create a great narrative backstory throughout, because it's all has to be like exposition during the scenes, because everything has to be caught on camera, and it makes it feel not as real, because some of these conversations, why would they even talk with a camera in their face? Anyways, that's my problem with some found footage in general. But this one, because it has that feel to it, it really worked well for what it wanted to do. And so kudos to that, because generally, when I first found out it was found footage, I was like, oh God, this is probably not going to go the way that I want it to. So anyway, so as they are going through the haunts, they are being tormented by the people from the first haunt and the second haunt and whatnot. And apparently maybe they're all part of this group, this blue skeleton type of group. And it all culminates with them having a rendezvous on Bourbon Street on Halloween night to find the final haunt for the blue skeleton. And, well, things go interesting from there. I'll just leave it at that. So let's get to those scores, shall we? Violence and gore, I am having this one a 1 out of 5. There is really not a lot of violence. There is some of the violence and the little confrontations going on. But stuff is usually just the fake haunt stuff that's happening. However, toward the end, there is some sound effects that sound like people are getting hit around and stuff like that. But honestly, nothing much going on here, violence and gore-wise. So it's only a 1 out of 5. Shock value, 3 out of 5. There's a lot of jump scares in this movie. Some of them work, some of them don't. But actually, some of the ones that were most effective were when they were in the haunted houses. And they were going through some of the rooms, and some of the jump scares that will get you at the haunted house were actually pretty good, translated onto a movie theater or, the movie screen anyways. And so I thought, oh, that was done excellently. So, kudos to them, 3 out of 5. Solid stuff going on there. Plot, I am giving this a pretty good 4 out of 5. First of all, like I said, I think this is a very original type of film. It's unique. I have not really heard a lot about people doing a movie about finding extreme haunted houses, or even a lot of movies about a haunted house. I mean, there's been The Fun House, but nothing about this particular genre or this particular situation. And I was very compelled by it. I thought having that storyline and the backstory of not the backstory, but the other story about the blue skeleton and those things, I thought added a lot of depth and interest, even though, let's say, the characters themselves didn't really get a lot of development. Everything's written in a way that allows the characters to become real, i.e. there's a lot of ad-libbing in this movie, and I'm going to talk about that when I talk about the acting. But you do, because of the flexibility of how they were doing the film, you did get this kind of camaraderie, brotherhood, friendship vibe from the crew, and you really kind of start to care about them. And it just, the journey and the adventure and the fact that they're going in an RV and they're camping out in the middle of nowhere, and then things are happening to them, I thought was really well done and well paced. So kudos for them, 4 out of 5. Acting, I'm giving it a 3 out of 5. It would have been higher, except you can tell when you've got the scripted moments, between the scripted moments and the ad-libbing. I mean, honestly, there were moments where, the guy's trying to yell about, hey, get away from me, get off of me, and it sounded like acting. It sounded like they were trying, and not necessarily the kind of fresh and authentic feel when they're ad-libbing. And so, yeah, because that sort of thing kind of takes you out of it a little bit, I can't give it a higher score. But still, I mean, solid. I mean, I liked how they were when they were ad-libbing for the most part. That was probably the strongest parts of the movie, acting-wise, and for building that relationship with the audience. So, 3 out of 5 for that. Nudity, actually, it's a 1.5 out of 5. I was surprised this actually had any nudity, and I wasn't expecting any, but then they went to this, like, sort of haunted strip club, and there was some gigantic titties being all flung all over the place in that scene. So, you know, kudos, man. I respect for the titties. Anyway, so 1.5 out of 5. Enjoyment factor, I'm giving it a solid 3.5 out of 5. The movie was fun. I enjoyed it. I kind of wanted a little bit more toward the end. However, I understand what they were going for, and I was reasonably satisfied. And I thought it was a fun time. It was interesting. It kept me engaged, and it was entertaining. And I was never really like, oh my god, let's come on, let's get on with this, you know. So that's pretty good. The fact that they went to the different types of haunts did add to the variety. Even though they were doing technically the same thing, it felt different enough. So that's great. So kudos to them. Solid film. And I'd recommend it. 3.5 out of 5. My overall impressions, 3.5 out of 5. I mean, they made a found footage movie that wasn't boring, that was intriguing, that was engaging, that actually had a story and characters that you cared about and that you actually could develop a relationship with, and was not shallow like some of the other found footage films that I've seen. So very solid, and I highly recommend it, especially if you're interested in extreme haunts and the search for scares. And the ultimate scare, of course, is to be almost murdered or murdered. Yeah, I guess right to the point where you're murdered. Anyway, so that averages out to be a 2.8 out of 5. Yes, not as high as those exploitation flicks, but man, they get all those bonus points for the massive amounts of gore, shock, and nudity. I mean, that's like 15 out of, what was that, 7 times 5 would be, so that's 15 out of 35. That's almost half of all the points there. Anyways, so the houses that October built. What do you think? Have you seen the movie? Tell me what you think in the comment section. Do you agree with me? Did you think that was a good found footage movie? Or did you think, no, this was absolute trash and garbage and you were wrong and you should feel ashamed of yourself? And maybe I'll hope that a bunch of guys in masks come over to your RV and take you out and bury you in the desert or something. I don't know. Anyways, leave me a comment, thumbs up, like, share, all that stuff, subscribe, and I will talk to you next time on the 31NOHH Horror! Remember, stay sexy, stay scary, internet, and remember, if you're out in the middle of nowhere and you find yourself surrounded by a bunch of masked freaks and you're in a big, powerful RV, you fucking gun that shit right straight through it, man. I don't give a fuck, man. Just boom, go. Really, I mean, shit. If they'll move. They'll move. If they value their lives, they'll move. Anyways, that's all. I do not condone vehicular manslaughter. But if it's self-defense, man, self-defense, that's a different thing. Anyways,